Welcome to Wide Flank.
Hello and welcome to Wide Flank. This is your Captain Teddy speaking.
This is Sarah Elazar.
That's a fucking good intro. That's the best intro we've had.
Damn it! I really wanted to do the whole thing. Danny is really the best at this.
The voice actor. Yeah.
My old Veggie Galaxy intro.
We're here with Flight Navigator in the cockpit. We're here with Flight Navigator Alon.
Hello.
And Flight Attendant Danny.
Please take your seats.
He will be serving you refreshments throughout the journey. We're going to be encountering a little bit of turbulence when we get to Act 3 of Prey. However, it's going to be smooth sailing as we talk about the genre, which is where we're going to start. Well, actually, Danny's going to do his intro. Also, this is a Game Club episode. We played Prey. Game Club is where we pick a game, play it over the course of a month, and then talk about it after we're done. So buckle up because we're doing Prey. We're headed straight for Talos Space Station.
Danny, tell us about the game.
Yeah. All right. So we played Prey, the 2017 version, heretofore referred to as Prey. Prey is a kind of genreless game, combining elements of shooters, Metroidvanias, immersive sims, and stealth games. It was developed by Arcane Studios, which is also the studio that developed the Dishonored games, directed by Ricardo Barre, and the game was published by Bethesda after Bethesda bought the rights to the Prey franchise earlier in the 2000s. The original Prey came out in 2006, but its initial development started in 1995. Took quite some time for it to actually get out. And then they were working on a sequel for a number of years, which was eventually axed because it was suffering from the same kind of delays as the original. During the mayhem, Bethesda bought the rights from 2K Games and Human Head Studios. And even though they use the rights to the game, there's no connection, no story connection. It's not a sequel. It's not a remake, not a reboot. It's like a spiritual successor is probably the best way to describe it. It was one of the most popular games of 2017, mostly really strong critical reviews and user reviews of the game. People praised the non-linear gameplay and immersion of the game. There was some criticism of the story and storytelling, but especially people highlighted how well made and like solidly built the game was for a game that is like such an open concept and non-linear. And and we played it.
Yeah, I think also it's Arcane has like their main French studio, and this kind of came out of their Austin studio, which is like a fledgling new studio that they like kind of built out to build this game. So it's kind of like one of their first major releases. It's like two studios within one.
Interesting. Yeah, I think genreless, what you said, Danny, is pretty accurate because I think you could make a case for like 5 different genres in one, and it kind of even questions like, what is a genre? Like, what's a shooter? It doesn't really describe anything about the game. It just describes the first person perspective and like having a gun at some point. So yes, this qualifies, but then it also is kind of an RPG, and I don't even know what an immersive sim is, but it's probably kind of that too. And it's kind of open world and Metroidvania. And it's just like the scope of this game is really, really wide.
Yeah. I think a great way to kind of, I have for kind of thinking about the genre of this game, I think it's great. We'll see if it's actually great. Is it's really player dependent. I mean, certain aspects like immersive sim, I think it universally has that, and shooter elements, of course. But like this was not a stealth game whatsoever for me. I know that there are stealth mechanics and people use them. I may have snuck past one enemy in my whole, 26 hours with the game. So for me, it's not a stealth game, but definitely could be.
Somebody played that a stealth game
for sure. Some scaredy cat wouldn't come out behind cover.
Yeah, I think it's like definitely a Metroidvania, definitely a shooter, definitely an immersive sim.
Yeah, we were talking about Unfinished Swan. I don't know if we talked about this on another
I
podcast.
think we did, but
Yeah.
maybe Doom. I don't know.
Yeah, but right, it's a game where you start the game in a big white blank area, and you have a reticle, and when you click, paintballs come out, and you basically just paint this whole 3D space to discover the world and traverse it. That's a first-person shooter, right? It's nothing like Half-Life 2, nothing like BioShock, nothing like Portal, nothing like this game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, genres are just really bad tools to translate things. That being said, this game's an immersive sim.
Yeah, I mean, while you were talking, Danny, I was thinking like, oh, maybe that's what people mean when they say immersive sim, is that it's basically like a choose your own adventure story. Not just I'm not even touching on the story aspects now, where there are a lot of choices and different endings and all that kind of shit, but in stylistically how you want to solve your problems and what skills you want to level up and that stuff, and how you want to deal with enemies and combat sort of defines how the game plays for you, like you were saying. So maybe, yeah, for some people it's a stealth, for some people it's Doom, for some people it's, whatever, just an RPG. So maybe that's what it means, but I don't know. It's kind of just everything all at once.
If you can read emails in game, it's an immersive sim.
If you have a wrench and there are emails, there's someone complaining. If there's a generic HR email on a computer at some point.
Fair enough. How many emails do you think you read? I mean, like 500?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Quite a few. That should have been a stat, like a post-credit stat, like some of the other stuff.
Yeah. Did you find out how many neuromods you used, by the way?
Oh, I didn't look. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I got mine. I used like 150 or 140, I think.
Yeah, I used 205. So
oh my God.
I definitely read more emails than neuromods used. So
holy shit. Wait, maybe we should talk about what a neuromod is, because it's such a core component. You wanna go, Teddy?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, maybe we should just talk about the game a little bit. Like, give some summary real quick. So, it's kind of even hard to explain because you don't really know what's going on for a lot of the game, or till the end. So, spoiler alert: this is the game. The game can be absolutely ruined for you if you listen to anything. So basically, the game takes place. We can skip the intro unless you guys want to talk about it. But you wake up. You're on a space station, and a research space station where you're developing neuromods, which essentially are ways for transferring skills between humans. Basically, like the Matrix, except in order for Neo to learn kung fu, we have to take a person who knows kung fu, record them doing it onto this thing called a neuromod, and then anyone who pays enough money can take this neuromod, inject something into their eyeball brain, and they now know kung fu. So this space station is developed to research this technology. Also, as a part of this conflict is aliens. The way you're developing neuromods is there's an alien species that has been discovered, and they break containment at the beginning of the game. And the game is about you deciding what to do about this problem.
Yeah.
Whether you are good, bad, how you navigate the space station, and deciding what to do, whether you blow it up or join forces or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be clear, the alien species, they're like there's organic material that comes from them, or exotic material from them that is used to build the neuromods, which is why it's all being done in space.
Yep. And you and your family are basically the heads of the company that run the space station, that are handling all the research, and a super rich company because neuromods are already being sold in Earth. And, so there's a lot of like family drama also.
It's Succession in space.
Succession plus every sci-fi movie you've ever seen all in one. So neuromods, you had a lot of them, Teddy, huh?
Oh yeah.
This is your second playthrough, right? So like I imagine there was, because once I finished the game, I was thinking a lot about how like oh, I could have done this build, or I could have gone like this skill tree or played it in that way. But I really also had no interest in replaying the 30-hour game. So how did you find the second playthrough?
Yeah, I think it's probably. Yeah, I'm curious to. I really loved it. I love this game. I think the first time I played it, I didn't really understand what kind of game it was. I wasn't really exposed to the immersive sim genre. I played Deus Ex a long time ago. This is, by the way, where immersive sims comes from. I think mostly is Deus Ex, kind of like RPG. You have like lots of different skill trees that you can use to interact with the world, whether it's like being really strong to pick up boxes or being a hacker and hacking terminals. And so I don't know. I didn't really like understand that this game was that. So I think about what you were saying, like maybe halfway or 2/3 of the way through my first playthrough, I was like, oh my God, there's so much I could have done in this game. Like I just didn't get it. So this playthrough, I just like was able to experiment in a lot of different ways that I didn't the first time. And that was enjoyable. It's been a long time. But also, yeah, it was, did you guys feel like you got it right away? Like that there was multiple ways to do things? It sounds like Alon, you were kind of discovered halfway through or something.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like people would talk in Discord loosely about it, our Discord, and like, I talked to Damon a little bit and you guys a little bit, but I don't know. I kind of just chose hacker without thinking because I was like, I think I used to want to be a hacker. Hackers was like my favorite movie growing up. I was like, yeah, cool. But then as you go through, it's like, oh, this is like kind of useless. And I wish I had the way cooler, more powerful stuff. And I wish I knew, which definitely detracted, I think, from my then rest of the playthrough because I was just like, oh, I'm so much like weaker and more useless than I could be right now. Which was not a thing that I liked. I mean, yeah, it's this type of thing that I wish I knew more going into it. And I think you could have without like it being a spoiler or something like that, that like this will drastically change how you play the rest of the game instead of just being like, yeah, I guess I'll upgrade this. And oh, I guess I'll upgrade this also, whatever. Like it sort of felt like it didn't matter. And then by the end of the game, you're like, oh, it could have been a completely different experience.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like past gaming experience that comes into play with this. Like looking at these skill trees, and you're always in a game like this, you're always going to have a health bonus. You're always going to have a like damage bonus. And yeah, definitely like if you went all in on hacking and leverage with your first 20 neuromods, that's going to have a big effect, especially as the combat starts to ramp up. So I didn't get it for a while, but I basically was just like, I want to be able to kill anything I fight. So it was like neuromodding, I was upgrading my security weapons performance, and like I got hacking to 2 so I could get into most terminals and stuff. But early on, I actually thought I was subverting the design a few times. Like I was using the glue gun and I was like, oh, I wonder if like they meant for this to be able, like for me to be able to, there'd be like leverage level 3 blocking something. It's like, oh, maybe if I glue gun on top, I can drop into the room. It's like, oh, I can. Like I guess I'm just a genius. And then I started realizing like I was seeing the verticality of the level design a lot more, and exploring, overhangs and light tracks that are mounted on the ceiling and finding loot up there. I'm like, oh, I think I'm starting to figure out like this isn't just supposed to be like you're not a high enough level yet. You can't come in here. It's like you just don't have this particular skill, so try something else. But it's probably when I finally started paying attention to the recycler charges that I realized like, oh, there's really not many hard blocks in this game. It's like if there's or at least leverage isn't a block because you can always just recycle anything that's in the way. But that came pretty later than I'd care to admit that I started using the recycler charge.
Yeah, I never it wasn't until really I finished the game and started researching for this podcast that I was like, oh, that's what people do. Like, oh, they like, make staircases with the glue gun and go up the wall and skip sections and, like all this shit, recycle like big.
Did you not use the glue gun like that?
I never had glue. I went
funny.
like, I was writing in the Discord channel. I mean, there were like 5-hour stretches where I had no glue. So I was mostly wrench. Because I just had I never had any
crazy.
ammo. I never had anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe it's worth like talking about. So if you
We should talk about the glue gun because that no one knows what the hell we're talking about.
Yeah, so the glue gun is it's a giant, it's like a big gun that shoots this like building material out, and it basically just like, you can see it in my background. So like,
Yeah.
you can shoot it on the wall and there would be like a clump of this rock there, and you can interact with it. So you could like jump and climb on top of it. So like there's like a second floor way behind me. You could like put it on the pillar in the corner, put a few of them in a row, and you could jump and climb up it. You can also use it to like glue enemies and freeze them in place temporarily. So it's just like, combat platforming.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the glue gun is a good encapsulation of the immersive sim, the variability of the design, right? So you shoot an enemy with a piece of glue, it slows them down. You can then decide, do I want to save my glue resources and run up to them and try and kill them while they can still attack me? Or do I want to keep shooting them with glue to freeze them in place completely and then they're totally vulnerable? So there's like a trade-off question right there. Then you can also do something like, is an enemy in a bathroom? If so, you can just seal the bathroom off with glue and just keep it trapped in there. Also, if you're in a big fight, you can run into the bathroom and seal the door off, heal yourself, reload, break the glue, come back out. As also in Danny's screenshot, you can use the glue to like build a staircase along the wall and jump into a security station. So you can also, if there's like electricity on the floor, you can use the glue to make a safe walkway.
Or fire shooting out of a pipe. You can, put it on the pipe to get through a choke point or something like that. Also, I watched a speed run. Did you guys watch any speed runs?
No,
I've seen clips
really
of some.
They
the
beat
videos
it in under 7 minutes. And the first thing they do is when you get to the lobby, they like sort of glitch through the main shaft or the main lift, and then they're just in it, but it's not powered, and they're just shooting like singular blobs of glue to like grab onto as they plunge all the way down and skip like every room and place in the entire space station to just get to like basically the very end, like straight away.
How do they end it?
I think the null wave, like they make the null wave transmitter, but there's also the Arboretum escape pod, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the fastest. But I just watched the beginning and I was like, oh my god, like they can just like, that's how open the game is. Like obviously glitching through the wall you're not supposed to do, but like and I like there's elevator shafts that about early in the game, like up to your brother's office, up to Alex's office, but you're locked out and you can't go there until way later in the game. But you can just glue and like jump and climb up the elevator shaft and just get to his office like right away. All of this stuff, I realize like people listening to this and even you guys are probably like, oh, you didn't even like play the game, but like, I don't know. I didn't have glue. I didn't know I could do any of this. I used it to kill shit early on, and then I didn't have glue for hours, so don't know what I was supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, and maybe even we can even talk about like some of this stuff. So, like, there's a security station also in Danny's screenshot, but like, if you want to get into that security station, Alon would have like has hack, right? So Alon can just hack the key code, right? So, I think it's kind of an illusion, actually, how a lot of times how the game responds to your playstyle. Basically, you can get in this room, right? There's nothing you can find basically throughout the game that is game breaking. And and they basically reward you for, you can explore and find the key card for this room.
Right.
You can be a hacker, hack into this room. You can be like Danny and glue your way over the top. If you research the alien ability tree, you can morph into a coffee cup and slide under like the ticket window hole. You can use like a dart gun that people have to like shoot the screen and open the door.
Yeah, shoot the computers. Yeah. Or you
like
can level up the strength thing too, right? And
Right.
rip the door open. Yeah.
Right. All of these just get you in the room, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like, in some ways, it's not that special. The game isn't like responding to you that distinctly. However, even though I knew playing this different playthrough, my different skill trees would basically achieve the same thing, it still felt satisfying to me in some ways. Like, it was like, I don't know. I felt like it was me playing, as, even though it was like kind of an illusion.
Interesting. Yeah. See, like you said, I mean, I just hacked through everything basically. Like, I was like hacker 4. Like, I could just get through any door. Really not satisfying at all. Like, you just play these it's like a flash mini game that is
a bad one.
Really bad and really easy. And you just get in everywhere. So there was no point. Like, I'm making it sound like I was upset that I was out of glue, but I really wasn't, because there was nowhere that I couldn't get into. It was just boring, and I didn't like the game. Like, maybe if I was forced, maybe if there was no skill tree at all and glue is all you had, then like maybe I would have found the more creative ways and felt more, expressive or something in the space. But I just went through the front door every time. Yeah,
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's a quote from the game director who said that we did not want the player to solve singular solution puzzles, such as simply finding a key for a locked door, but instead think of this as a living, dynamic world where there are tons of solutions possible.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are things you can't hack, right? Things that require a key card. There's like physical spaces that you can't get to, even if you like have hacking abilities.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Like, maybe it seemed like it was just like, oh, I can't get to this part in the game yet, but actually you can, right? Like, Danny got to Alex's escape pod, like, as soon as he got basically to the Arboretum. He like glued up, he like climbed some tree, got up to the top, and then like glued his way across like the scaffolding of the Arboretum.
Well,
and
that's how I got onto the scaffolding, and then I just was mashing jump so I wouldn't slide off and walking forwards along the edge of it.
Amazing.
Until I got to the escape pod.
And right, like, and it's like you're like, oh, I broke the game, but the game like basically allows for all that stuff. It's in some ways like almost like Stanley Parable or something. It's like, what is the game? Like, am I breaking the game? Actually, the game knows I can do this. And often, like, if you find a body or loot, right, you're like, this is the game recognizing that I did something creative or special. Like, the only way here is by like finding some hidden thing or gluing into like in the Arboretum, that like pit that you can like land on. There's like a body in there or something.
It is interesting. I mean, yeah, like you said, I would honestly have to play it again to answer the question, do these different playstyles, are you rewarded for the different playstyles? Because I don't know the answer to that. Because I just had basically one playstyle and it wasn't fun and I didn't like it, but it's, maybe something else would be a lot more fun. Like, does the tree that you choose actually matter? Like, if you're getting into the room, no matter what, does it actually matter and affect the rest of the game? Do you feel different while playing? I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I think I can. Well, Teddy probably can too because he played it twice. But
sure.
Like, the first half of the game, all I was doing was security weapons. I didn't explore the morph tree at all. I was honestly a little overwhelmed, and so I was just like, I'm just going to be tanky and upgrade my shotgun like crazy and just build shotgun shells and pistol ammo.
I love that.
And so I played probably the first 70% of the game like that, and then kind of switched. And then I was just honestly, because it was really hard to kill enemies. And I was like, maybe I should try using more of like the psi abilities and the like Typhon skill trees, and started using kinetic blast and mind shock and all that stuff. And it was I think I don't always have a ton. I don't in games that have like psi abilities like Mass Effect, I just like I was never that interested in it. I was like much more interested in like a sniper than I am in someone who can like levitate enemies.
Yeah.
So I was just naturally not drawn to it, and having more fun kind of blasting my way through. But then I did have fun and felt like it was the combat especially was a little more varied when I started introducing that. So I'm thinking about like, okay, what kind of enemy am I fighting? Okay, so I need to use the psi ability. Okay, I need to use fire on this or shock on this. And
yeah, we should mention that the Typhon are the alien species, and basically you put on what's it called? Retroscope? The thing you put on? Psychoscope that you put on to like scan the different types of enemies. There's not that many enemies, but you scan them and like research them, and then you have the ability to neuromod the alien skills to you once you start learning them. So yeah, it's not just like strength and hacking and that shit. It's also like mind control and more, like you said, like Teddy said, like morphing into objects and stuff like that.
Yeah, right. Everything the aliens do, you can do, which I think is neat.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say, Danny?
I was gonna say, just kind of continuing on not just with the skill trees, but like just the game rewarding the player. I think they did a very good job with it. It's not an easy balance to strike, because I always felt like, especially The Last of Us 1 didn't reward my exploration enough. Like if I took the time to fully scout out an entire area after combat, especially on harder difficulties, I'd get like a couple spare parts for an upgrade I don't even really need later. That was like too little. Or I'd get an artifact or like a collectible that I don't care about really. And then I can't think of one off the top of my head, but a game where there's just like insane amounts of loot everywhere, and it's just like like Minecraft. I don't know. It's like a grind to pick up all the coal. So I'd like to pick up coal. And I felt like the game really rewarded my time and exploration. Like there was always like some useful items when I decided to climb up to some really weird place that it looked like maybe I was supposed to. When I like followed a maintenance shaft, I found something, either like a transcribe that started a side quest that was interesting, or it was the power for the room, things like that. And I, it's not 100% of the time it didn't feel like that, but for the most part, they gave me just enough where like every time I found loot, I was like, yes, like, okay, this is great that I got extra ammo for this and don't have to craft any.
Right.
Or like, oh, this opened up the game in an interesting way.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like there's a lot of this game. This is the first time that this has happened for specifically me, but I feel like I almost wasn't ready to play this game. Like, I feel like a lot of the stuff that you guys like and we talked about already is like, this is like past video game experience and knowledge that you're bringing into this game. And for me, it was basically all new, like the whole concept of just like a spaceship where there's no rules and there's nowhere to go specifically, and exploring. And at first, like we did the Patreon episode like a couple weeks ago, like at first the immersion really worked for me. Like when you first wake up in the apartment and all the stuff, I was like doing stuff that I don't normally do in video games. I was reading all the excerpts from the fake books and turning on the shower and checking every single cabinet and picking up every piece of loot. But yeah, I just got more and more like bogged down with how much there was. And I was just overwhelmed to the point where like by the last, like, I don't know, 25% of the game, I was like, just get me fucking through this. There's like too much. I'm not going to like do this for every single room, every single dead body, every side quest. I was just like, dude, like there's too many. I probably finished the game with like 40 unused neuromods. Just like, I don't need them. Like, I'm just going to beat the game.
Yeah, I experienced something similar with the side quests in the game, where I was just like, after a while, I was like, I just want to advance the story.
Yeah.
And I actually, after finishing the game, I became much more interested in seeing some of these other ones through. Just like the last sequence of the game, I had a lot of fun with. It's kind of like you don't know what you have till it's gone, and those are locked off now. But that's also what's kind of nice about the game is like, well, I've got all these side quests, and I am confident that I have enough loot, enough gear that I can actually just pursue the end of move on to the end of the game now.
Yeah.
Which I appreciated.
So the two things here. One is I thought about this for a while because I know Alon, you are kind of like not into this. Is the more you don't like the game, the worse this problem gets. Right?
Very true.
The like less you're excited about exploring something, the more it feels like there's no way into this room, or you don't feel like there's a purpose for exploring it. The less like flavor you get for the world, the less like actually mechanical advantages you get, right? You get less neuromods, less stuff.
Yep.
And then less ability to explore things. And it's then the next area you get to, it's like it reinforced that problem even more.
Yeah.
The combat is more grueling, right? It's like the enemies get harder and better, and you're just sort of stagnating. And there's something that you can jump in if you want, but there's something about.
I was just gonna mention my notes are gonna be funny that we send out to Patreon subscribers after the fact, because I'm just getting more and more cynical. Like every single like line, like to basically the point where you're describing right now, where like in my last or second to last session beating the game, I'm just like, oh, another room that's just fucking pointless. I just spent an hour like platforming to and dying from fall damage, like, and just like this fucking game, and it's just getting more and more annoyed by every little thing that at the beginning I thought was like cool and interesting.
Right. Yeah. It's
like a failed relationship. It's like when your partner, like the love is leaving or whatever, brought you two together at first, and then like the little things about them that maybe you used to think were cute or maybe still sort of annoyed you, but it didn't matter. Now everything amplifies and just annoys you more and more until like the breaking point.
And I don't know how you guys feel about difficulty in this regard, but this is one of the things that I think we always talk about difficulty if difficulty matters.
Yeah.
And this is one of those games where I think, well, in general, I think the special thing about difficulty is that it forces you to, if it's good, it forces you to really contend with the game systems. And that's, kind of what this game is. So that's what immersive sims are about, right? That's what they say anyway. It's, you run out of glue. Okay, what are my options, right? Oh, I can't kill this guy with my guns. He just has so much health. Like, what can I do here? I'm out of ammo. Okay, there's like, what can I do in this area? There's some oil on the ground. There's like a tank over there that maybe if I can get to it, I can throw it on this guy. If it's easy, especially like early on, you like develop these solutions which are shoot and go through, right?
Yeah.
And it's
wrench the mimics.
Sure. Yeah. Right. And the game reinforces that, right? It's like, here, this is how you use the wrench, and that's how you kill enemies, right? And right, I think all of us had this problem, right? My first playthrough, Alon's playthrough, Danny's playthrough, we all didn't really get it until too late to enjoy much of the game. And it's it's hard because like you want to be able to have players discover this for themselves, but you don't want to spoon feed it to them.
But they spoon feed tons of other shit too, with pop-up tutorials, but they don't teach you what's actually valuable to like learn how to have fun and enjoy the space, which I obviously fucking hated. Danny, you look like you have something to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree. I agree with what Teddy's saying. Like, I definitely, I think I kind of described it before, just how later in the game I was just having more and more trouble in combat, and just kind of forced me to explore the Typhon Tree and and to actually look at what the psychoscope was telling me about weaknesses and stuff. And I think, I mean, I totally sympathize with, your criticisms or your experience with the game of, it seems very plausible that a lot of the interesting things could have been not revealed. For me, there were a few key things that happened or aspects of it that kept me in for long enough for me to get there. I feel like just the opener was so solid and exciting that I was like, oh, I really want to see where this game goes next. Just story wise. And then it's funny because later the story, I felt like the story was less and less engaging and became more generic, but, and then there's some there's some really satisfying things that happened in fights, that happened with the platforming and exploration where I was like, I was into it. Or when I did a spacewalk and it felt really good, they just had enough very obvious pieces that kept me in long enough to get there, which is, so I call that if I was reviewing, I'd say that's very well designed by them. Yeah.
I agree with all of the really good things that you just said. And I think, again, on that Patreon episode, I was there. I think that most fun I had with this game was the first time I played it. The first, whatever it was, 8 hours or whatever I put in, or 5, it was less than that. It was 5 hours or something like that before we recorded. And yeah, all of that stuff was so cool. Well, the first time you leave the ship and you're in space is incredible. At that point in the game, I was still in this is so cool exploratory mode. But unlike you, Danny, I think whatever kept you in long enough just did not work on me at all. As the main story faded, I just lost interest. I had to reread the plot before we recorded tonight because I was like, what happened again? I didn't care. I just found myself being and maybe this is something else that we should dive into, but a lot of the game deals with philosophical decisions and morality and even from the very beginning when you take a Rorschach test and a test of do you push the man in front of the train to save other people? It plays on that kind of stuff a lot, but I never cared. I never felt like I was the character, and I never felt like my personality was represented in the game or by the character. So I was just detached, I didn't give a shit what happened to the fat man you push in front of the train. Who is he? He can die, whatever. I didn't care about saving the humans. I had no empathy for them at all. Unlike in The Last of Us or whatever, where you love Ellie and certain characters, and it sucks when some people die and stuff like that. I never felt any of that in this game. So as the story faded and it became sort of more meta and more just generic sci-fi, I was just whatever, I was just kept being just get me through this.
Yeah, I have a note. Or Ted, do you have anything you wanted to say before we start talking? Because I'm interested in jumping into kind of the philosophy of the game. And
yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, there's a part where January. It's when you save, you save, or I guess you can save a bunch of people in the cargo bay, before you. Right. And January, your operator companion, your AI companion, who is you in the past, thinks you're planning to destroy the space station, to stop the alien outbreak. She asks you why, or she's it's interesting that you save these lives even though you're about to kill everyone on this station. You have a lot of compassion. It's really interesting. And the moments like that, I was just I didn't do it because I care. I was I did it because I'm doing all the side missions right now, you know? And I like exploring this world. And there's just the first one, I was oh, that's interesting. And then it keeps kind of piling on. And especially if you do a series of side missions in a row, she reacts to all of them with some of these questions. And I really can't tell if they think these are interesting. This is an interesting commentary on what you're doing in the game. But I think it's really shallow and not. It's probably the least interesting thing about the game for me is the dilemmas presented by these things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the game, I think early on, there's like 3 different books in your apartment, right? Things they talk about here are free will, consciousness. Like, what does it mean to be conscious? It talks
Right.
about the Fermi paradox, encountering alien life. It talks about utilitarianism versus deontology, right? It's like, what do you do in the train tracks? Do you push the fat man to save?
Yeah.
Do you kill someone to save people or not? Right. But there are like a couple paragraphs about them, and it's all a bunch of different questions. I feel like they could have been like, okay, we're going to talk about utilitarian philosophy. Like, is it worth killing people to save other people? And we're going to present a bunch of different scenarios to go over that. And I think that's actually the strongest case in the game is utilitarian philosophy. It's like, is it worth some amount of harm to achieve greater good, right? And I think again, I agree with what you guys are saying. I think they could have done a much better job here, but I do think like this ultimately is the question of like life in general, and how to be like a good person. But right, I think the Transtar or the people at Transtar, right, like Igwe and Alex Yu and even Morgan early on are saying like, is what we're doing here, the suffering we're causing, the test subjects we're like torturing to create these things, basically they're killing all these like ex-cons to generate Typhon material for the neuromods.
Right.
And the question is like, is this worth it? We're generating like, tons of benefits for humanity, right? Is this a moral action? Some of this you kind of have to project on these questions. You have to project onto it. It's not exactly asking these questions to you. But like, I think the trolley problem is really abstract, right? It's pointless. It's in a tutorial. But then did you do the shuttle side mission, Alon, where there's the shuttle that's headed towards Seattle that left the station?
I don't remember.
You basically come across like a dead body, and she's like, there, you get her transcript that says, I'm contemplating what to do about this shuttle that left half an hour before the Typhon outbreak. It's full of people who are headed for Seattle back to Earth, but I'm not sure if the Typhon were on it. She's like, I think 30 minutes is probably enough time that they didn't get on, but it's, I don't know if we can take the risk. And she's killed. And basically up on the screen is an option to blow up the shuttle. And it has a timer for when it's going to land on Earth. Right. So it's like, it takes this kind of like pointless abstract question that like they ask in every 101 philosophy class.
Yeah.
And like, this is a video game, right? It's like, it is a version of the trolley problem, right? We're going to give you maybe not quite a simplified, but a simplified philosophical question. Like, what do you do here? Is it worth, you don't know all the facts. In fact, life is much more complicated than simple philosophical questions. What are we going to do? And I think like that's right. Like, oh, I'm going to blow up the shuttle and make sure the Typhon don't escape. But it's like, I think that is, I don't know if you like, Danny, did you do that? Like, did you feel like that was like, I didn't feel as a person. I feel like I was thinking as a person, like, what would I do in this situation? I also was role playing throughout the game as like I'm going to do whatever it takes to save the most people and kill anyone I have to.
See, I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like that's like a second playthrough type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the type of thing that maybe if I played it again, I'd be like, let's see what happens if I save everyone. Because I know sort of the vibe, and I know, another spoiler, like how the ending where you're like evaluated and that kind of stuff. Like I'm curious about how that happens, and there's a different ending and whatnot. But yeah, that I never felt like I was asking myself the question, whereas in a more like a Last of Us or something like that, where like you are Ellie or you are Joel, I feel like it's a more interesting question from someone else's perspective versus trying to project me into the universe or something like that. Like I'm, my famous quote, you're never Gordon. Like I never felt like Morgan. So I also don't care. Like if the shuttle hits Earth, like who gives a shit? Like I kind of want to see what happens. Are they going to kill everyone on Earth? Like cool. Like I don't feel any morality in those at all.
Yeah, but I could pose that to you right now, right? I don't actually feel any morality.
Yeah.
Right. I think these are just like interesting to talk about, if nothing else, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think it's an interesting question. I just feel like because a lot of the characters are really generic, and it just wasn't. It's not a very impact. It doesn't. I don't feel a lot of impact. I did think about it, and I think I like overstepped what I was saying before. There are definitely some parts where it's better than others, and like this is one that I think is better, and was like
the shuttle question.
The shuttle question.
The shuttle, yeah.
Yeah. Which I was like also shocked that I'd come across. It was just like kind of this amazing moment where I was like, oh, this is like a great piece of exposition. And but I agree more with Alon, where I just like, I didn't really feel like Morgan that much, or I didn't feel like, or honestly, no, that's not true. Because I did kind of roleplay as Morgan, but my kind of character was just like, I don't really know what's going on. I don't know how I'm going to solve this. I'm just going to kind of see, I'm going to like learn more about what's happening here. I definitely don't have all the pieces. And this was one where I was just like, I don't even know if I'm going to blow up the facility. And like, maybe I'm going to like kill all these people in this shuttle. And I did it. Similar kind of thing, right? Because I just wanted to see what would happen.
Yeah. See, that like, sorry to cut you off, but there was a podcast called Bullet Points that I listened to, and they all absolutely despise the game. So I was like, oh, my people.
I gotta listen.
I got to listen to this podcast. But one of the quotes that I like took from that episode was the woman on there was like, this is a quote. She said, "Would you push the fat man in front of a train? I don't care. Who's the fat man? I don't know. You tell me. Who am I? I want someone else's perspective and benefit of their knowledge and experience." And they brought up the end of The Last of Us, which obviously, we recently played. When you're Joel saving Ellie and going on an absolute killing spree of innocent people, trying to cure the world of a pandemic, it's to me, it's much more impactful to do that and then talk about what you did through Joel than to be, presented as sort of like philosophical question. You know what I mean? Because like you're Joel and you're going on the killing spree and it's fucking crazy and it's like, oh my God, Joel's nuts. Is Joel the bad guy? All of these sorts of questions. And then we can go on a podcast and talk about like what the fuck just happened and what was Joel doing, and like that was crazy. But yeah, I think me and Danny are roughly on the same page, where in this I was much more detached. I was much more just like, I don't know, shrug. Yeah, cool. Interesting.
Yeah, I guess, I think role-playing is an important part of this experience, right? It's, in some ways, it's like you're a scientist, Danny, right? It's like, oh, I wonder what happens if this happens. But it's like, it is, that is kind of the whole game, right? You're just like, what are these things interacting? What happens if I do this? Does the game respond? Like, I watched all the things that can happen to Dahl, the bad guy who comes to the base, who's like a pointless character, but
fucking lame character also.
Right, you can just murder him. You can not get to Alex in time, and he murders Alex. You can see it happen if you like watch. You can remove his neuromod so he forgets who he is, and he'll fly the shuttle home.
That's what I did.
Right, and these are like all moral questions that I think like exist in the system of the game that are just fun to see these things interacting. But to what you are saying, Alon and Danny, is like there's a certain amount of like handicap that I give a game like this, because you can't have The Last of Us is so good because you can't do anything different, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It is telling you a very concise story that's predetermined for you. And it's great for that. But also, I think our criticisms of these games is like, what happens if you don't want to do that? Like, what if you don't agree? Not to say that it's bad, but it is maybe a deficiency, especially as a game, right? And so on the other end is this game that's like, well, my person doesn't talk. These people don't really talk to me. And when they do, the voice lines are terrible.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't really give a shit about this world. I'm just happy to blow it to smithereens.
Yeah.
Which I do kind of feel, but I also like in some of these moments, I'm just role playing, imagining it's better, right? And so I don't disagree with any of the things you guys are saying.
No, I hear you. Yeah. It goes back to what you said, where you're like, the less you like the game, the worse all this stuff is, right? Mm-hmm. Like if you're really vibing with the game and you're role playing, like all of this stuff is more impactful. Every email is cooler and more interesting, and every decision matters more and stuff. Yeah, Danny, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say that I don't disagree with anything you just said. I do think just by the nature of this type of game, it makes these moments a little just weaker. Mm-hmm. Like I think if you had to choose and you got a different ending, depending like at whether or not you're going to save Ellie in The Last of Us, like that, even though now you have control over the situation, it would still feel like there's way more of my own emotion, or like engaging with my own thoughts about it than some of these. But yeah, I think that's the nature of the medium. You definitely have to use your imagination a little bit to enjoy this game more. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I think that just is a thing that you should caveat of an immersive sim like this.
Right. Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, I think at one point we were like, are you going to like games where your decisions really matter?
Yeah.
Right. And like, this isn't maybe the best version of it, but it's it's in the realm, right? It's like they have to build a game that it's not D&D, right? It's not totally limitless. There are confines.
Yeah.
So it's very wonky, right?
Has to be. Yeah. I mean, another couple things they said on that Bullet Points podcast, because a lot of the time they spent talking about like choice and like choice in games and stuff like that. And one of the things that the woman said again was, I'm not trying to invest my own personality in someone who really isn't like me, which I think is a reflection on just like Morgan themselves. Because, I mean, it's not just that like Last of Us is a great story throughout. It's also that like they feel human, like the people feel real. And, this is not just in the future, but it's also just like a completely parallel universe. Like JFK didn't get assassinated, and like there's aliens, and like, so it's like even more detached than your average game from any sort of reality or humanity. And when it comes to the end of the game, you aren't even human. You're the memory of a human in a Typhon. So maybe that's what they were going for, and maybe like that just didn't work for me, but I don't know. And then, just on the like choose your own adventure genre, I'm not sure that I agree with this, but I thought it was an interesting quote that the host said. He said, play your own way, which is basically what they were calling like choose your own adventure type of game where your decisions matter or whatever, is a euphemism for we don't have the courage of our conviction. By just leaving it sort of like open-ended, like you can do any of these different things and get a different result. And I thought it kind of resonated with me because this game didn't work for me.
Yeah, I totally disagree with that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, me too.
That's why I brought it up.
But I don't disagree. Obviously, it resonates with you for a reason.
Yeah.
In this case. So, but yeah, I just think it's just a different kind of expression of the different type of expression through the medium that I think is when done well is amazing. And I do feel that this game does it extremely well. I don't think the choose your own story is necessarily done amazingly well, especially because the story, you get different endings, but the outcome is the same in all of them.
Basically, yeah.
Well, the question, I mean, and I think you can hate this game right on. I think the thing is they obviously could make a shooter, or they could make a game where you hack everything,
Of
right?
course.
Like,
Yeah, of
like
course.
the idea that they did this because they aren't confident in one of those directions is like I just feel like asinine, right? It's
Right.
not.
Maybe they were talking about specifically the story, not the gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, I think even that, right? Like, what is that? They're like, well, we don't know what to do with the story, so we're gonna have a bunch of options because we can't actually come up with something. It just seems like,
Yeah.
and they also just made Dishonored, which is like a on rails story game before
Okay.
this. I mean, the levels are open ended, and you can do these kind of like you can be a sneaky person, a hacker, a fighter.
Oh, okay.
But the story is there are a few choices you can make, but it's not super meaningful.
Gotcha.
Well, this was the Austin studio, not the French studio.
True. Yeah.
So maybe they don't know how to do it.
Yeah, maybe they don't know shit.
Like they're very. Did you guys watch that documentary, the No Clip thing I sent?
No, I didn't watch. Sorry.
Fuckers. I mean, it's really fascinating the way they talk about the development. Like different people are in charge. The way they have it broken up is like different people are in charge of different areas, and they develop kind of like that space, the people in it, the stories, and
cool.
they all like kind of know what everyone else is doing, and they'll like if that story decided to take it to another room, they continue to develop that story there in that space with those developers. So it's this like weird kind of like interactive, like it's like they're like very coherently developing this in this almost in the way you play it, right?
Yeah,
And
it sounds like they're developing it in a spaceship and going room to room, like literally.
Right, and the criticism of it's messy and bad, I think is totally fair. And but like they're doing that, right? They're like they set it on this crazy adventure for that purpose.
I feel
I do. If you guys have something else strong, please stop me. But I think something we talked to maybe a little bit briefly previously was like pace and like length is at some point, like even though Danny and I enjoy this, like there are only a certain set of creative ways to interact with problems. And even if you have like every tree developed, you're going to figure it out, or you kind of get it, and it stops being fun. So even though you hit that pretty early, I think eventually it just happens. And like Danny was saying, he just wanted to end the game. And I was like fascinated to see how the game did certain things. And there were some of these amazing moments where like I created a Typhon out of a dead body, and it was like the nightmare was there, and he was creating lightning under this platform, and he just killed the nightmare after enough time went by because he was like electrifying the floor. And like that was awesome, but
yeah, that's cool.
You know, I think I played for like 50 hours, right? It didn't.
You're psycho.
Right, it doesn't make 4 hours of the game good. But I wanted to read this. I don't know, like when all the military guys are flying around, were you guys just like, this is a fucking? Were you just like, this is so hard, Alon? How are you getting through that?
Oh, the engineering.
Yeah. The military
those
operators.
fucking things. I was just stunning like all of them.
Yeah, okay.
And just sprinting
past them.
Yeah,
disaster.
basically stun and sprint. That was my last like 5 hours of the game.
It's funny. I was having a lot of fun with the game at that point, and then that happened. I was like, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And
so
luckily,
annoying.
but same deal. I like more quickly than I expect. They're so tanky too.
Yeah,
so I thought
so
I was like,
fucking tanky.
I was like, this is gonna suck so much. But I ended up doing the same thing, Alon.
So there's a couple things. Like one is I feel like I just knew the space station so well, and so I would like hack one. I would mind control one, and then just like sprint the other way and like glue up a wall, and then like mind control one, and then run. And I was reading this review by this article by Rob Zachney of like Waypoint, the Vice gaming mast, and he said it had become. He basically is talking about this at this stage of the game. He said it had become my station, a labyrinth in which Morgan Yu was now the Minotaur.
Holy shit, that's sick.
And it kind of it's not quite like you are the Doom guy, but it's like what you've been doing in this space, getting to know it, learning the game systems, you now like it's more like what the Watchmen quote, like I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me, right?
Yeah.
You've got this whole place like mechanically, knowledge wise, skill wise, like neuromod wise dialed in, and you're like a composer wreaking havoc on it. You're the pianist, Leichner or whatever.
Yeah,
but that
I
quote
definitely
I really wanted to read.
I love that, and
it's so sick.
I didn't experience it to that full extent, unfortunately, but I did. Like, I came out. I'm trying to remember when it is. I guess it's when Dahl is at Alex's bunker and you're trying to get to it before he kills him.
Yeah.
I came out. The nightmare was hunting me. So I've got the military operators all over me, a bunch of Typhons, and the nightmare.
The nightmare, which is a 20 million feet tall, huge monster that goes through walls and two-shots you.
Yeah, and it's like a random chance to spawn, I guess, every time you enter a room. And so I got unlucky, and this was it. And I was like, I died like 5 or 6 times immediately, like trying to get up to Dahl. I was like, how the fuck am I going to do this? Then I realized that I had my glue path that I'd built, 15 hours ago, maybe 10 hours ago in the game, that got me up to the escape pod. And so I was like, so I just booked it to that glue path. And one time when I tried, the nightmare blew up one of the glue blocks, and so then I ended up dying. But then the next time I tried, I was able to get up my old path and make it in there. And
that's so sick.
that was, I definitely felt that's the closest I came to feeling like I was the Minotaur. It was hard because the nightmare was present, the Minotaur was there, but it's the game-breaking
nightmare that makes you feel weak no matter how strong you are. Yeah, I mean,
just a brief aside. Also, there's a cutscene that plays after you like get Alex, and the nightmare killed me during the cutscene.
I hope you clipped that. Really that is sick.
Yeah, I hope I did too.
The mastery of the space is something I think they did really well, and that's where another, where we started another like sort of genre crossover. Like I felt the same way that I did in Castlevania, where I was just like, I fucking know where everything is in this castle. I'm stronger than everything. I can kill anything. Like I can get to any room so fast. Like it felt really good in that way. The ending I thought was so predictable and so cheesy. Like the actual the story ending of the game, like the post, leaving the ship or whatever. And I was hoping that the ending was going to be like, this whole thing was like a plot device to make you take over the company or something. Like I thought it was sort of like gonna be like something evil like that. Like this whole 30 hours you just played on mastering the space station was so you could take control of the space station and like use the power of the Typhons or something like that for yourself or something.
Right, but it ended up being like
a simulation.
Well, and it ended up being like, we want to stop the Typhon. It's like, isn't that what we've been doing this whole time anyway? Right? It like wasn't even, it was like a twist that was the same thing you've actually been doing. I mean, I guess you're a Typhon, but like it's not, it's still like, we just want to stop them.
Yeah.
It was really weird.
And like they already had the twist in the really strong opening. They already had the twist of like a simulation. So they're just like, oh, let's do a simulation into simulation. I was just like, dude, come on. Like, put any effort into something else, please. Like, it was such an unsatisfying way to end the game when I finally got there. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think Chuck asked basically 2 questions. One is like, what do you think about that ending sequence where you're basically just rushing through trying to do something?
Yeah.
And I think like, for me, it was definitely the Minotaur feeling. But and so I agree. I think it was cool, but like I'm not categorically opposed to twists like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think sometimes they're just like, oh, whatever, and that's how I feel about this. Oh, whatever, but I think they could have done something with it. Like,
well, I mean, the one that I said would have been like an insane twist.
Yes.
Like that would have been so sick if you were
I'm playing
evil,
your game next,
or you were a Typhon or whatever, and you thought you were Morgan, but you actually just killed everyone and took over the ship and spread Typhons to Earth or something. Like, so sick. I would have been like, oh my God. What have I done? That's the moral question I wanted. What have I done? Instead, it was like, I did everything. I'm at the end. I have to kill January or I can't end the game. I was like, what? It's like, what? This is like the only person I don't want to kill, and then you get the ending where you're evaluated by Alex and the other drones. I was just like, come on, man.
So what ending did you have, Alon? So you did
the Neurowave.
Okay.
Where you have to kill January because she won't let you do that because you're not blowing up the ship.
Mm-hmm.
You're just like temporarily destroying the Typhon. You do that. That sends like an electric shock through the entire ship and kills the really big alien that's engulfing the entire ship. And then you wake up and it was all a simulation. What about you guys?
Did you kill everyone when you woke up? Or did you
no,
take his
there were oh yeah, I killed everyone. Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah. That wasn't even a question.
Yeah.
You're a Typhon through and through.
I thought you meant did I kill every human through my playthrough, which I didn't. And there were times where I was trying to save people and then I like messed up. Like we talked about in Discord, like I thought I was saving this guy in the fucking what was he in? The guy floating in space. Yeah, in a shipping container. So I like, press the button, and then he died. But no, I didn't kill everyone. I wasn't all bad, but then I killed them when I woke up.
I was planning on blowing up the station my whole playthrough. That's what I thought I was gonna do. And then when the giant Typhon showed up, I was like, 100% null wave. And that's what I ended up doing. I was like, I'm going to blow up the station, but now they're here. Like, this isn't the only big alien. Like, this is, we got to figure something else out. We can't just nuke this and be done and wash our hands.
Sounds like you're role playing.
I told you I was.
Yeah.
The big alien is so sick, by the way.
Yeah.
So fucking sick.
Also, if you are bad throughout your playthrough, I'm pretty sure Alex just kills you at the end.
Oh, really?
Like if you kill enough people.
I didn't see that ending. Oh, like when you wake up?
When you wake up as the Typhon, Alex is like, we have to kill you.
And I think if you escape... Well, did you actually do the escape pod ending, Danny?
Yeah, so it was kind of a spoiler because I did the escape pod really early on, and you don't really know what's going on. I think the screen stays black if you get that ending. I don't know if it stays black if you get it, after null waving or nuking the station, but he says like this one wasn't the right one. Like, let's start the tests again. Let's find a new subject or something like that.
Yeah,
so
I
did get that ending.
Yeah. That it does stay black. That's all that happens basically.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. I don't know. Didn't like it. Sorry, guys. Sorry, everyone.
The one other thing I really liked, I don't know if you like this, Alon, was just like the staging of the areas, like finding a person with glue sprayed everywhere and like or like someone who killed themselves by shooting glue into their face or and it's one of these games where like I think where it's strongest, right, is where you tell the story, right? You piece together what happened rather than like someone giving you some shitty dialogue, right? It's the strength of the game is those kind of like self-told stories, and it's not the like heavy-handed narrative. I think it's like keeping with everything else we're saying.
I sort of agree and disagree because I thought about Subnautica, like when you get the transcribes in this game, and I thought it reminded me of Subnautica when you find the audio files. I forget what they're called in that game. And they're so good in Subnautica. Like the storytelling, like when you find that family on the island and like some other like crashed ships and stuff like that. Like it's really good, and it's part of the reason that makes it really good is it left a lot of imagination, a lot of space for imagination there. Like you are just hearing not even really the story, you're just sort of hearing life and what's going on, and like they're arguing, and you're able, it's sort of like book versus a movie vibe, where you're able to just like fill the holes with your own imagination in a book, whereas a movie just shows you. And I did find that like there was stuff in this game that I liked where you know, like you said, like the examples you gave, I did really like. But then there was other stuff where I was like, I don't know, I get all their like D&D character sheets, and like I'm reading all of these emails, and I was just like, this isn't like painting me a picture of the person. These are just like generic objects that a person may have. Like I didn't feel like those were good elements of I don't know, character design. Is that even the right word?
Yeah.
Like I didn't think those were interesting at all, or stories that I would have liked to hear more about. But there were some that were very good ones. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think the more contained set pieces are what I liked. Like, yeah, like reading a bunch of email back and forth is like a bunch of writing, right? It's or like the D&D sheets. It's like, yeah, okay, like they're all humans. I get it.
Yeah,
like,
they're nerds.
Yeah, right. I like, I like one of my favorite things in Subnautica is like there's that audio thing of like the priest who's shooting down in the escape pod, who like says some insane prayer as he's about to die, and then you find his escape pod and he's dead. And like that to me is like very reminiscent of like a lot of the scenes in this. When there's too much, you're right, exactly. You can't use your imagination. It's like,
totally. They did do a lot of good stuff. I had a lot of problems with like noise pollution though, like where Alex would be saying something and January would be saying something and a transcription all saying something, and there's only closed captioning for one of the three, and it just is literally you can't understand a word of any of them. And it's like, how is this a problem in a 2017 game? Like that they can't just, if a wave is playing, don't play another one. It's like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah, I think this is loosely connected, but just like some of the side quests are awesome. I think just like really fun little stories, and doesn't land every time that you come across and like kind of piece these things together. But
is there one that stuck out to you?
The cook side quest I really enjoyed. Is a little over the top, I think, but like the kind of the shock of he lets you in and then locks you in the freezer, and then later like the recycler charges everywhere. I love that. Even though like I got fucking wasted. And I was at the main lift, I think, and got blown up by one and got sent all the way back to when I met him in the kitchen because I hadn't saved or something like that.
No.
But and then also the Danielle storyline where she's outside of the ship by the pool, and you have to hit the glass with your wrench to get her to come out. Like that moment was. Also, just really rare interactions with people who are still alive, and that one was really good.
The way she looks when she's like swimming through space, it looked really amazing.
Yeah, so sick.
And then like some of it is just like, I don't know, like the cargo bay survivor crew is like really underbaked. Like, all the character models look really weird. No one is a real person except Elazar, who has
the reason I'm alive is because of Chief Elazar.
Boy, am I
they
glad
all
to
have
see
like
you, Morgan.
2 voice lines or something.
Yeah, Morgan.
Yeah. It's like the Marines in Halo.
Yes.
But she, but Elazar is also a character who's really cool, I thought, throughout the story, like who doesn't understand the full story, but like knows how to survive. Like I don't know, a really interesting one. Her backstory, you like kind of read about the invasion and all this stuff is cool. One of like the few characterizations that I really liked. But then also, you see her and she's like walking around like this. the whole time. It's like I almost preferred when I never saw these.
Yeah,
people.
right. No, exactly. Right. Like
That's kind of what I was saying, right?
Yeah. No, you're totally right.
Yeah, maybe we should play it again and kill everybody right away, so you never have to see them.
Yeah,
run
just give me
a
the
script that kills all characters.
Yeah, kill all. God mode.
I played this game where pretty much before I did anything, I saved and then did both possible like things. Like a lot of times I would just like kill someone and see what would happen. And this is part of like the success or how immersed in like a playground I felt like I was in this game, and I really liked it. But like when I beat the game, I spent like, I don't know, an hour doing every possible thing where like I killed Alex and then ended it, then killed January and Alex, then killed January, and then like killed Doll like on the shuttle and shit like that. And I just felt, even though a lot of times nothing came of it, it wasn't quite like Kojima-esque in that sense. There was enough variation when I did things like that I felt I just always felt rewarded for playing around in the space.
Yeah, I did that too. Just like not every time. Sometimes I like wanted to be like, this is my decision, but a couple times I'd be like, yeah, I was very disconnected. I'd be like, oh, what happens if you do this? This is
I had my decision and knew what I was going to keep playing through, but I wanted to know, it's like watching a YouTube video instead of going to YouTube and watching what happens. Otherwise I just did it.
Which is what I did.
But I don't know if I've said this at any point. I loved this game. It's like a first single player game I played one of the few single player games I played in a while where like very few moments that I feel like I was grinding and just getting through it. I was like, I had a lot. I thought it was very fun. Just a really fun game.
Wow. Well, we're going to start doing ratings, right? Is it time?
Yeah, do you want to do them live?
I don't know. It's part of the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Should you want to give the criteria, Teddy?
Yeah, so we're gonna try and like basically to I don't want to like rate the overall quality of the game, but I would like to have something that like we can look back on and like compare like for posterity. Like, what did Alon think of the immersive sim? What did Danny think of the card game? And just kind of like as a touchstone over time. So basically the categories, Alon, are I actually don't have them.
I don't have them open either.
Isn't it senses, fun, and recommend?
Yes. Yep.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And am I the only one who does any work around here?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes.
Yep. Yeah.
And it was like the Michelin star guide was sort of like the inspiration, right?
Yeah. So I was shocked a couple years ago to find out that the Michelin rating system is the Michelin tire company. Maybe I'm the only person who
I never put that together.
I had always, as a joke, thought that was the case.
Yeah,
it's actually the case.
So there's 3 stars. 1 star is also, they created this restaurant rating system to get people to use more tires. So 1 star is you should go to this restaurant on your way to a place. If you're driving somewhere or going somewhere, if it's on the way, stop there. 2 is you should go out of your way, basically take a detour to go to this restaurant. And a 3-star Michelin restaurant is make a dedicated trip to go to this restaurant. So basically, if we're giving it a star, it's worth doing, right? So we're going to combine all these for all 3 of us, and then that's going to, we'll I don't know, have a Google Doc.
We're experimenting, but I think it, like you said, I think like for just archiving sake, it's going to be really interesting to look back. So based on the Michelin, it'll be the same. It's like fun. Like 1 is there were fun parts. 2, I thought whatever, most of it was fun. 3, this game was super fucking fun.
Yeah, roaring good time.
Yeah, it's just the roaring 20s all over again. So should we start with fun? I mean, I don't know. Which one do you want to start with?
Yeah, let's start with senses, because I feel like that's okay. Yeah, so I think this game's a 3 out of 3. I think the game is just thick with style. It looks amazing. It's not. I mean, I think it's beautiful. Like when you first get out of your apartment and you're in space, I was just like, oh my god, this is awesome. When you first get into the station and look out and see the moon, I was like, this is so fucking cool. Yeah, I don't know how they could have done a better job. Loved it. So if style's your thing, check it out. Go make a dedicated trip.
use those tires up. And Danny, it looks like you agree.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful game. Spacewalking is so good. Just like the rotating all the way around, the thrust, the fact that if you like thrust and crash into something going too fast, you break your bones. It's just like, I love it. I just love it. So yeah, Senses 3 for sure.
I'm gonna go 2.
What the fuck?
That 2's good. 2-star Michelin restaurant. You still go out of your way to go to that restaurant.
To have some looks.
Yeah, I mean, the space walking was probably my favorite part of the entire game. Like I thought it was just unbelievable. Like every aspect of it, the feeling, the look, and just all of it was the disorientation, incredible. But there was, well, first of all, we didn't even mention the Mick Gordon music, but I didn't really like it. Like the Doom 2016 bangers, like throughout the playing the game and listening after the game. Prey, the music sort of like, I don't know, there's just like ambient sounds and like, yeah, the textures are cool and some maybe specific parts are sort of intense, but like overall I didn't love it. And I'm including too many audio files being played at once. Like didn't love that. And the sort of just the spaceship, just being in the ship, I didn't find like particularly engaging to my senses. Like the generic sort of room and desk with a chair and a table and coffee cup. Like I was just like, yeah, it's just like a empty space, a boring looking spaceship. Although there were other really cool parts. And like my background is like fucking sick. Like the coral and some of the typhons are amazing. But yeah, overall, 2 is still very good.
Yeah, I just to quickly respond to that. I agree on the music. When I listened to it separately, I was like, I feel like I've barely heard most of these.
Yeah.
It's like, I think some of it maybe is the mix and I didn't really notice it, but really it's like the menu music I recognize.
Yeah, the menu music is unreal.
Yeah.
Like the splash screen when you first open this game is like, this is gonna be the best game I've ever played.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah.
But I also think, I agree that like, I hear what you're saying about there being like a desk and a chair. I think the reality is that there are desks and chairs in offices.
Yeah.
But I think they do a good job. Like a lot of the artwork is really cool, and like the museum,
artwork is cool.
There's like a museum with all these artifacts and like a model of the space station. There's like little handouts about art being important and why they have it throughout the station and stuff. So, anyways, I just think you're wrong.
Did you realize at one point you're finding all these cigars and stuff throughout?
Yeah, I found a ton of cigars. Yeah.
And I didn't really think about it, but at one point I found a transcribe when someone's like, oh, the station smells like fucking smoke or something. And I was like, oh my God, they're fucking smoking on the space station in this alternate future. I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, they're like playing cards and just huffing cigars. Yeah, I didn't really think of that.
Yeah, I didn't notice it the first time I played. Also, like the space station, I'm pretty sure is to scale from space when you're outside, and
fucking awesome.
If you are like in the arboretum or in a place with big glass, like the dynamic lighting system will just like change throughout the entire rotation.
Scale
really
is actually
cool.
something we didn't talk about that I think is also one of the best things of the game.
Yeah.
The scale, the size of the ship, the relative size of the Typhon, your size when you're outside the ship, like all of it just like makes sense. You know, the fact that I can like look at the Nightmare we were talking before and be like, yeah, it's like 20 feet tall, and like feel pretty confident in that, you know? It's like, it's kind of crazy. But yeah.
It's one of the great achievements of the game is like, the level design or the design of this station is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very good.
Well, that took forever.
We'll do the ratings quickly at the end again.
We should
No,
need like a graphic, like a clickbaity graphic for the thumbnail of the ratings or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do it at the beginning. I feel like this could be the whole podcast. It's great.
Yeah, seriously.
I think fun, 2 out of 3. It's kind of clunky. But I like that as soon as it gets boring, you can just finish the game. I think fun in terms of like, I feel like I'm exploring, I like the different ways you can get into everything. That's what I'm considering fun, even though like it's not a tight combat game.
Yeah, I had so much fun whenever I was playing. And like you said, it was amazing that I could just free myself from the boredom if I wanted to. And I think I give it, man, I think I'm going to give it a 3.
Amazing.
No shame in that.
Yeah.
So what does a 1 mean for fun?
I think it's too good. I think you need to give it 1 means it's fun.
1 means it's fun. Go to the restaurant if you're on the way.
Yeah.
So like if it's on a Steam sale, download it. It's fun. Yeah. So I think it's less than a 1.
0. Yeah. No score.
Yeah. I'm not giving it a score for fun.
Yeah.
I don't think it's fun.
Love it.
And then the last one's recommend, which we're I think describing recommend as like you'd recommend it within the genre. Is that's what we decided, right?
Well, I think 1 would be if you're into this genre.
Oh, okay.
If this is your speed, you should play it. But like don't play it if you hate shooters, you're not good at shooters, and this is a shooter and it's like okay, be like don't like stay away because it's gonna like it has a lot of issues, right?
Okay.
But
what's 2 and what's 3?
2 is if you basically play games, you should play this. Like if you just are like, I play a diverse set of games and I want to check games out, like play it. 3 out of 3 would be like, if you met someone on the street and they're like, I want to play a video game, you'd be like, you got to play this game.
Drop everything.
Figure out how to play this game.
Yeah, ASAP. Okay, I understand. Teddy, why don't you start?
No, I started it twice already.
I've got mine. I say 2 for sure.
Okay.
I can imagine. Well, I think just partially because of Lon's experience, but also like I can definitely. Some people I know who play games, I don't think they would enjoy the game. So
yeah, to me, 3 is almost like even non-gamers. You'd be like, you should really play this game to see what a game is like capable of. Almost, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that I don't think that this can hit a 3 for that reason. Like, I don't think a non-gamer could ever like enjoy this.
Right. You never heard music before? Listen to Stravinsky. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. Listen to fucking I don't know, some experimental like noise shit.
Right.
I mean, 1 is a given because it's like, if you're into immersive sims or exploring or space or any of the shit, like it's automatic 1. Maybe I'll give it like a 1.5 or something like that. Like
just say 1. Just say 1. I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, I do think that like I'm the outlier, though. You know what I mean? That's the only reason why I'm hesitating is because I think just based on like you guys, but also our whole Discord loves this game. So I'm like, most gamers probably like this, and I'm the weird one. So that's why I was like, maybe 1.5 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth saying, like, this game sold terribly. It was a big commercial.
Oh, really?
Is a commercial failure.
Oh.
The French dude who ran this game left the company afterwards.
Wow.
It was like big. There was like a review controversy because there was a bunch of technical issues at the time of launch. So
I had so many technical issues.
Yeah, I had a few, but not as many as you.
I didn't. I don't think I had any.
Yeah, so like, I don't think you'd be alone in saying.
Okay, I'll go 1.
A safe review.
Yeah,
like a safe recommend. I would definitely. I think I would be like, I don't know. Make sure you've played an immersive sim before playing this game, kind of thing, right? I'd be hesitant, even though I love it. I'm hesitant to recommend it because it's like it's complicated.
There's a little bit that I forgot to bring this up when we were podcasting, but you just reminded me. There's a little bit of like my Metal Gear angle, which was like, I just wish I knew this stuff because it just would have made the whole game more fun. Like, I wish I knew about like Kojima's humor and knew about all of the like weird interactions that you can create, because I just missed out on most of it and just was like struggling and frustrated for most of the game, you know, where
Right.
it didn't have to be that way. And there's a little bit of that in this game where I'm just like, yeah, I guess I would have just done this differently. Like, I don't have a exact example, but just like, I don't know.
Yeah, do you think like what's the way around this, like, or in the future, like should we like play some of the game together? Do you want to like watch, like should we watch you stream or something?
I don't know. Let's think about that.
Yeah, okay.
But so, yeah, I'm a 1.
One.
Danny, you said you're a 2, right?
2.
Teddy?
I think 1. I think I'm a 1.
Wow.
But yeah, I just would feel good about being like, if you like immersive sims, it's a good game for you.
Yeah,
However, this
I
kind of
mean,
like
for
got
sure.
me. This really got me into immersive sims, so maybe it is a 2.
I mean, like, when Damon suggested that Nate should play this in our Discord, that happened, I was like, absolutely, you're gonna fucking love this game, you know. And that to me is like a strong 1. I'm like that, but like, you know, if I don't know, someone else that we're friends with on Discord or whatever is like, oh, should I play it? Like, should I buy that game right now? Just, you know, I would hesitate a lot.
Yeah, I just finished Call of Duty. Should I buy this? I'd be like,
Yeah. Like
Yeah,
someone
I don't know
I
if
play
this-
League with or Rocket League with or something, I'd be like, probably not.
yeah, it's risky, right? It's like
Yeah.
you're about to spend 40 hours. I mean, I guess that's the other thing we should talk
Reading
about is like,
emails.
yeah, like if this didn't work for you and you weren't doing this for the pod, you would have just, you know, closed your laptop and moved on.
Well, that's
right?
another
Like,
thing. Yeah.
Right. Like, and that's kind of like one of the weird things about it. It's like, what happens like to me normally, it's like, oh, I didn't get it. And I stopped playing after 4 hours and I talked to Chuck, Damon, you know, somebody else. And they're like, no, dude, like once you get to this point of the game, it's like totally different and you got to do this thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, next, you know, I'll play this in a few months.
Eventually.
Right? Yeah. And then I end up doing it like, oh, wow, this really is good.
Yeah,
So-
no, I mean, I think a little bit of that happened via you guys for me through the podcast. You know, it's
Yeah.
like, because I was basically just like all negative, but then, you know, there's cool stuff. There is some cool stuff, you know. I'm not giving it all zeros,
Right.
but yeah. Wow. All right, so we'll compile the scores. We'll keep them up somewhere, and yeah,
Cool.
cool.
Send us your ratings.
Yeah, and the people's ratings.
Yeah. Yeah, I would love to do that as well.
Yeah, we can
Um,
pin. We should pin like everyone's ratings in the
Yeah, that's
in
a
the
good
game club
idea.
in the game club channel.
That's a really good idea. The Patreons. Patreon
Mhm.
Yeah, Patreon
subscribers.
only.
Yes, thank you so much to all our patrons. We really appreciate it. Our games are cheaper, if not free yet. So keep that coming. And
thank you.
Thanks for
That's
everyone who just
amazing.
participates.
Yeah,
It's so great hanging.
it's a lot of fun to be able to just pop into the Game Club channel and like see the memes or whatever people are talking about within the game. I love that. It makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Like Milk said, it makes it less lonely too. Just knowing that like there's a group of people all playing it.
Right. I'm not going to say what our next game is because last time we did that, we ended up like the only time we picked a game on the podcast live, we ended up changing it.
We changed.
So I'm not going to do that. So we'll pipe
And we'll
it in.
just add it in post. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Alon. You're the best.
All right, guys.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.
Bye.
Get off my ship.
For the next Game Club episode, we will be playing the original Halo from 2001. Happy gaming.